There's just been a session that happened, that took place in conference room 3, talking about the mobile workforce. And hot off the press, we've got some of the panelists that have joined us here on Sibos TV. Let me introduce you to them. Christopher Raimondi is a partner and CIO at Brown Brothers Harriman. Carol Sormelik is a VP at IBM Global Workforce and Web Process Transformation Executive Office of the CIO at IBM. Now that really is the longest title we've had on Sibos TV. And also Elizabeth Lumley is with us. She is from FinExtra. Guys, thanks so much for coming in. Elizabeth, let me start with you first of all, because I understand the title of this session was Hype or Reality. So is mobile workforce, is it really a hype, or is it starting to become a reality with those of us who are in the working world?
I think not starting, I think it definitely is reality. This is the way technology and our work works right at the moment. Sort of enabling your workforce with mobile isn't really about just letting people work from home or indulging in the whims of the young or the tech savvy. This is the way work has changed. But I think in terms of hype, there's a bit of a hype language. I mean, a few months ago, a friend of mine on Twitter was at an event and she put up a tweet that said that most millennials will take a 45% pay cut to bring their own device to work. Now, we have a resident 24-year-old reporter in my office, and I asked him, would you take a 45% pay cut? And his response was untweetable, and probably, so, there is the hype there, but that doesn't mean that work has changed, and a mobile-enabled workforce is not very much reality right now and will be in the future.
Yeah. And Carol, at IBM, what are some of the things that you guys are working on to make this mobile workforce actually happen? But not just happen, but at a cost that companies would find viable for them because they've still got to worry about their margin and making money.
So what we've done with our bring your own device policies, we've enabled all employees to be able to bring their devices to work and access their mail, the calendar, their contacts, as well as their business applications. What we've really focused on is making sure our employees have the right behavior in how they're handling information with their devices.
So tell me about some of these behaviors. What would you do? What are the things?
So people need to understand that they still may have confidential or sensitive data and information, and they can't just be talking about clients openly. So we have programs that teach them what behavior they should have. And we have a program called Digital IBM, or it's a hub, and it teaches them all of the ground rules and policies they should be aware of. It has videos and educational material, so they can certify that they understand how they're supposed to be working in this environment. And it also helps them build their digital eminence as well, because they get recognition for completing those courses.
Because this is what people really, it all comes down to human behavior, doesn't it? And this is what, when we start to talk about technology, everybody thinks that's going to solve everything. But I'll give you an example. I'm sitting in the BA lounge at Heathrow Airport, and I hear a million conversations that are going on that are at very high level, and if I were not a nice person, I could really make things difficult for some of those confidential conversations that I'm hearing. This is that sort of thing that you're talking about. You're on the train and someone left their laptop to go to the loo, and then you can just easily log on and see what it is that they're doing. That's the sort of thing you're talking about.
Yes, but hopefully you can't easily log on and see what they're doing.
Well, sometimes I wouldn't mention the company, but sometimes they just leave it right there in the presentation that they're doing, and off they go, and you don't see them for another half an hour, and anybody could go and...
It can be embarrassing to call and tell somebody if you've lost your device that has company information on it. And we tell people, don't be embarrassed. It's important that you register and make sure people know you've lost that device, so we could wipe it and do things like that. So it's all the behaviors of employees understanding what they have to do.
Yeah, Christopher, how does this all work? Because people want to like working on these devices and they want to be flexible, etc. But can it actually really happen, and can we actually really be safe and everybody be happy working with these devices?
Sure, I think so, and the technology is getting better every year. At one time we had to set up the device so that if we put any information on it, we had to wipe the entire device if the employee lost it. We're now getting to technology that's capable of putting just a container on that person's device. And so now if they lose the device, we can just wipe what's the corporate information on that, or we can keep that in the container. So now you can have a container that's fully encrypted at all times, password protected, and can be wiped if they ever lose it. And I think that technology is getting better and better, you know, by the week as new companies are entering.
What sort of money are we talking here in terms of investment for companies that want a more mobile workforce? I'll give you an example. I was at a big law firm, massive law firm in London the other day, and one of the things that they're looking at, because of the cost of real estate, they're actually looking at making their workforce more mobile, so they don't actually have to pay for people who are sitting in desks in central London. But what kind of money will someone like that have to spend in order to make that happen?
It's actually, the technology is not that expensive. You're talking about using the foundational applications that you have on your desktop and porting the accessibility onto a mobile device. So the application is staying the same. It's really just buying the container that you're using to put it on the mobile device. So I think it's very inexpensive. But you know, mobility isn't just about being able to have somebody work from home. It's also about the fact that they can just use a device to have a video conference call from the road or from an airport. The fact that they can get up from their desktop, as it is today, and move into an agile development room and have access to all their information that would have previously been on a, you know, situated hard desktop. Now they've got it into any room that they want to go into. They can actually work on their PC.
What about the investment that you've had to make?
I would agree with what Chris says. I mean, you do have to invest in having these infrastructure components so that you can control your security and risk. But the applications themselves, many of our IBMers are creating them themselves. We've got environments that they can go in and create innovative mobile applications, and that's relatively very inexpensive. You just need one environment. I think what's very important from a cost perspective is make sure you're not doing the same things over and over inside your organization. So making sure you're doing it once people are aware of the tools and capabilities, the APIs, et cetera. And I also think the most difficult expense is when you want to access business applications that were built quite a while ago, because they may not be the best applications for you to access data. So that's where some of the expense comes in, is do you need to rewrite some of your applications?
Tell me what some of the interesting highlights in the session that you've just had have been, and where do you see the debate moving as we head to 2014 when we're in Boston next year?
I think the financial services industry is often considered not very innovative and very conservative. And Chris made a point that when email first came about, many banks blocked it, and now of course old-fashioned email is very much commonplace. And I think that that will eventually happen in the financial services industry. And organizations like IBM started to tackle mobile workforce 4 years ago, and I think we will start to see, when sort of the uncool amongst us start to embrace a sort of non-static workspace, it'll be inevitable that this will be a sea change, especially in the financial services industry.
Some of the interesting highlights for you of the conference on this particular topic?
I think what Liz was just mentioning at the end of our session, gentleman kind of told Chris and I we weren't very cool. So when they're talking about companies like ours addressing mobile workforce, that he would expect us to be dressed a little bit differently and talking about different technologies. But I think the real discussion behind that is companies like ours, you have to evolve. And when you have so many applications that your users are using and you're trying to be a pioneer in getting your workforce enabled, the technology's not there. So there are some deficiencies in what's available when you start first and trying to overcome those. So I think what I got out is I definitely wasn't cool.
Oh, we don't believe that.
When the uncool adopt something, then it's commonplace. It's every day.
And Chris? Well, I took away that just all of the companies in the room and everyone in financial services today say they want to be innovative. Well, if you really want to be innovative, then you've got to have your employees using cutting-edge technology. And so we've got to do a much better job getting the mobile technology into the hands of our workforce so that they are coming up with the next business idea of how we're going to be using that with our customers and clients.
Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us today. You're all three very cool people for coming on Sibos TV. Thanks very much.